Hello, and this is our number 2 training session in the Gold Key release and occasional adjunctive procedures. I'm Lawrence Gold, developer of the procedure, and in this session, I'll be answering questions, taking you through 2 passages of the Gold Key release, one with an item that I will recommend and one of your own choosing. We'll have time for further questions to be answered, and then I will, time permitting, take you through the next leg or section of the crystal crown procedure, which I call driving in the 4 pegs. At the end, I'll give word as to the plan for our next session to follow, which we will cover after all questions are answered here. So to begin, let's open for any questions to be posed, and let's see if we have, and also to any sharing that you would like to present with regard to the effects of last week's session. So, does anybody have anything? Okay. As I like to say, don't all leap in at once. Okay. So, given that there are no questions and no shares, we'll launch straight into the item for the Gold Key release that I've selected, and that item is learning. A nice loaded topic, loaded with things like it's difficult and um, I don't know if I got it right, and all the rest of the creative varieties that people may bring to the table. And before I launch in, once again, is there anything to ask or tell? Okay, so we have nothing to ask or tell. We'll launch straight into it. Now, I'm going first to review the steps of the Gold Key release without your having to do them. And then I'll cycle back to the beginning and guide you through stepwise. At the end of every cycle, I will pose the 4 questions. Is it more, less, the same, or gone? If it's gone, you're done, and you may just hang out in what the procedure lands you in, which is a kind of transparent equipoise. If it's more, less, or the same, we take what's left and we'll cycle through the Gold Key release again. So, in as much as today we're working with learning, I'm confident that my mere statement of the word brought something up, a feeling in you. And that's the feeling that you pass through the Gold Key release. So, as always, whatever surfaces at any step of the Gold Key release is what you accept for the procedure. You don't filter for correctness. You just accept what surfaces, and we run it through on that item. And so, again, I'm going to review the steps. So the Gold Key release begins with feel having that. And by that, that means the feeling that got triggered in you just by hearing the word learning. Doesn't matter whether it was positive or negative. What we're after is the transparency or clarity. So you feel having it. You notice where you feel it in you. You feel the shape of its intensity. Then I'll say, resist it. Intend resisting it. Or better still, I'm going to use the word refuse. Refuse it. Intend refusing it. Intend it. Refuse intending it. Feel how much it all matters. Feel how it mattering involves you. Think to yourself, it's true. It's true. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's true. Now you take whatever you get. Remember the feeling of it's true. It's true. Just like that. There's a repetition in it. Remember the feeling of it's untrue. It's untrue. Allow how remembering involves imagining. Stop imagining. Let it dissolve and dissipate. Awaken. And then I will ask, is it more, less, the same, or gone? If it's gone, we're done and we will move to the next item. If it's not gone, you take what's left and we cycle through. So before we begin, any question or comment? Just signal your little winky. Okay. Now, if you do have one, unmute your microphone so that I can hear you. And pose your question.
Okay, I noticed that I'm confused about my breathing while I'm doing this. I'm holding my breath and I'm sort of not fleeing the flow.
Okay.
Any idea?
It doesn't matter. You take whatever surfaces. The concern with breathing is just a distraction, so you include that in the procedure if it's there. Also, in your case, your mic was cutting out because I think you're too far from it to get a good signal. Your mic has a noise filter, and if you're not loud enough to it, it considers your voice noise.
Okay, is that better?
No.
Just do this.
I think when you're talking, you do need to move yourself closer to the microphone.
Is that any better?
That was better.
All right.
Okay. But it still sounds like it's going to be cutting out. And again, that means that it's not the gain of the mic, but your proximity, your distance from it.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, again, the breathing thing is, if you're distracted by breathing, that's just part of what you will dissolve as you go through the gold key release. Think about it. If you were to concern yourself with the breathing, your attention wouldn't be in the gold key release. Okay. Anything else?
No, but it was a good starter for me.
Okay. So mute your microphone. Okay. So with regard to learning, whatever it brings up, feel having it. Notice where you feel it in you. Feel the shape of its intensity. Refuse it. Intend refusing it. Intend it. Refuse intending it. Feel how much it all matters. Feel how it mattering involves you. Think to yourself, it's true, it's true, in that rhythm. Think to yourself, it's untrue, it's untrue, it's untrue. It's true. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of it's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of it's untrue. It's untrue. Allow how remembering involves imagining. Stop imagining. Let it dissolve and dissipate. Awaken. Is it more, less, the same, or gone? If it's gone, signal. Okay. So that was one pass. And if you're viewing this as a recording, you may start from the beginning of the sequence here and do repetitions that way. Or you may use the coaching recording on the Gold Key Release page or blog page on Full Spectrum Somatics, which you have as a link. All right. Anything to ask or tell about that?
Think about halfway through it left.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was reconjuring it up. So I was feeling kind of dizzy.
Dizzy?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Dizzy.
All right. So given as it dissolved in one pass, let's now do an item of your choosing. And you signal to me when you have it. Just make a little hand signal. Okay. So feel having that. Notice where you feel it in you. Feel the shape of its intensity. Refuse it. Intend refusing it. Intend it. Refuse intending it. Feel how much it all matters. Feel how it mattering involves you. Think to yourself, it's true. It's true. Think to yourself, it's untrue. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of, it's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of, it's untrue. It's untrue. Allow how remembering involves imagining. Stop imagining. Let it dissolve and dissipate. Awaken. Is it more, less, the same, or gone? If it's gone, signal. If you have anything left, take what's left. Okay. So feel having it. Notice where you feel it in you. Feel the shape of its intensity. Refuse it. Intend refusing it. Intend it. Refuse intending it. Feel how much it all matters. Feel how it mattering involves you. Think to yourself, it's true. It's true. Think to yourself, it's untrue. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of, it's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of, it's untrue. It's untrue. Allow how remembering involves imagining. Stop imagining. Let it dissolve and dissipate. Awaken. Is it more, less, the same, or gone? If it's gone, give a signal. Otherwise, take what's left. Okay, and feel having that. Notice where you feel it in you. Feel the shape of its intensity. Refuse it. Intend refusing it. Intend it. Refuse intending it. Feel how much it all matters. Feel how it mattering involves you. Think to yourself, it's true. It's true. Think to yourself, it's untrue. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's untrue. It's untrue. It's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of it's true. It's true. Remember the feeling of it's untrue. It's untrue. Allow how remembering involves imagining. Stop imagining. Let it dissolve and dissipate. Awaken. Is it more, less, the same, or gone? If it's gone, signal. Okay, so we have a completion on that one. And let's open for questions and comments. Anything?
When noticing that it matters, that's an expansion.
An expansion when you notice that it mattered?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you take that expansion through the rest so that the expansion also dissolved?
Yeah, this was much deeper than the last session we had. I felt felt like I was in a collective, not just a me.
It felt what?
I was in more of a collective field than a self field.
Yeah, I still couldn't get the second part. You said a collective field.
felt like I was involved in something much bigger than me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Was that inherent in the item you chose?
Could be.
Okay.
It could be, yeah.
And even a trivial item could be a proxy for the collective, meaning that you're doing it in yourself, in effect, on behalf of many. There's no labels attached to items that says it's only you. In fact, it's been my stand that people assume that their mind is their own when there's actually no way of verifying that. You don't even know if it's your own mind that you're experiencing. This occurs in, say, public places where the field of the public place affects your own. It could happen at sports events or in church when they're passing the collection plate that you had no intention of contributing to, and you find yourself reaching for your wallet or purse because there's an influence in the field. Okay. Well, let's go into the next part of the crystal crown procedure. Now, the crystal crown procedure, just to review, consists of the two sets of 4 operations of reality. There's the subjective side, which is your own consciousness, containing intention or intending, imagining, remembering, and attending. That's the subjective side. And the objective side is the apparent external world, and that consists of activity, development, continuation, and localization. Localization being the process of something coming into existence at a location. And each of those has a second version. The version I just gave you is the imagination flavor version. It's more incoming and developmental, just as development is a feature of the second one, which corresponds to imagining. The counterpart to activity is existence. Existence is more the remembered feature. It's like if you assume something exists, it's because in your memory it exists. Whereas if it's activity, it's something that you're perceiving present time with no assurance it's going to continue to exist. It's a different feel. The correspondence to development or developing is emerging. And the counterpart to continuation is persistence. You can feel how persistence is more solid than continuation. And the second version or counterpart of localization is location, which again is more solid than the process of localization. So I'm going to take you through what I call driving in the 4 pegs. And the reason I call them the 4 pegs is because we're linking up the subjective or internal aspect with its external aspect, and it firms things up and kind of anchors things as a part of the setup for what follows. And I'm going to just state what it sounds like the first time and then guide you through it stepwise. And again, this is the next step of learning the crystal crown procedure. So when we're talking about intending goes with activity and existence, and it sounds like this: intending, 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 intending activity, activity, intending, 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 intending existence, existence, So that's the structure of it. And we'll be doing that structure with each of the 4 pegs. And I'm going to divide it for you so that it's easier to absorb here. I'm going to take you through just the first 4, the subjective side, one cycle, and then follow it with hooking it up with the external or objective counterpart of each of those 4. So you'll be hearing me say intending, 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 imagining, 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 and so forth. And we'll go through the 4, and then we'll add on the second part, which I demonstrated last time around, which involved existence and activity, for example. And this will make it easier for you to remember how to do it than if we just leap into the more complete version. You're still in the learning phase, so we make it easier. So before we begin, any questions or comments? Okay. So we begin. Intending, 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 intending. Think it to yourself. Imagining, 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 imagining. Remembering, 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 remembering. Attending, attending, attending to attending. Intending, 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 intending. Intending activity, activity. Intending existence, existence. Imagining, 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 imagining. Imagining development, development. Imagining emergence, emergence. Remembering, 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 remembering. Remembering continuation, continuation. Remembering, 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 remembering. Remembering persistence, persistence. Attending, attending, attending to attending. attending to localization, localization, attending, attending, attending to attending, attending to location, location, okay, now we're going to cycle through it again. Intending, 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 intending activity, activity, intending, 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 intending existence, existence, imagining, 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 imagining development, development, imagining, 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 imagining emergence, emergence, remembering, 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 remembering continuation, continuation, remembering, 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 remembering persistence, persistence, attending, attending, attending to attending, attending to localization, localization, attending, attending, attending to attending, attending to location, location, okay, now, so that completes the sequence for learning this next part of the crystal crown procedure called driving in the 4 pegs. This bears repetition until you can do this without needing coaching. So, what I've given you is the learning sequence. When you do it for yourself, you may do it in the learning sequence, or if you remember well enough, you can do the full assembly of each of the pegs from the beginning, which is what we did in this last round through. In the learning period, expect that you may or may not remember it. Not to worry. It's the repetitions that create the groove, so to speak, the habit pattern or the learned form of it. And it becomes very familiar because basically the structure is obvious. You're doing the 4 aspects, the 4 operations, and you're using repetitions to drive in and refresh memory. So before we go to anything further, any questions or comments, observations? Okay.
It felt like I was building something.
Exactly. That is what we're doing. We're building the crystal crown. And each succeeding step brings it into more tangible existence. So, yeah, you're feeling it exactly as intended. Is there anything more?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So, as I said in the announcement email message, I'm going to give you a bit of exposure to an introduction to the tongue mudra. Tongue mudra is something that you do that has internal effects on your attention, and it produces a lot of different kinds of effects. Purificatory effects, that means cleaning up distractions and stress patterns. Focusing effects, it changes a person physiologically, physically. Tensions that have been unconscious and of which a person has been unaware suddenly become visible, feelable, and shift. And it's by virtue of doing this very simple action called the tongue mudra. Mudra is a Sanskrit word which translates literally as seal, S-E-A-L. And a seal is something that creates a container. And in this case, what it's doing is creating a container for your attention in a special way that will become obvious once you get it going. The tongue mudra is an action that has with it certain kinds of sensations or feelings. When you do the tongue mudra, you do it and correct your doing it by following these instructions until you get the feelings that are described. When that happens, then you've found how to do the tongue mudra and you apply it during either gold key release or when you have the full crystal crown procedure or other procedures to follow. The tongue mudra speeds the changes. It's a power awakening technique. When things release slowly, for example, during a gold key release, if you bring in the tongue mudra, if you haven't already been doing it, if you bring it in, suddenly you'll feel a shift occur much more quickly. You'll be able to release things much more quickly. Tongue mudra is far deeper than I'm telling you right now because I'm giving you enough to be able to do it. If you do it by yourself, it is what I call self-teaching. It will reveal its ways to you. It happens that the version I'm giving you in a moment is the elementary or basic version, and that there are variants on the tongue mudra that build upon the basic version, which are increasingly powerful, but we take things one bite at a time. Tongue mudra, as I'm about to give it to you, is plenty potent. So what you're working with is the relation of your tongue to your hard palate, the roof of your mouth, which is also the floor of your nose. And what we do is make contact with parts of the tongue with the palate. There are 3 points, and I'll give that to you momentarily. The 3 points are the roof of the mouth, behind the upper front teeth, and the place behind the rearmost upper teeth, the molars in back. And an easy way to locate the place in back is if you had an itch on the back of your tongue and you wanted to scratch it with your upper rear molars, you would lift the tongue up against and kind of rub it forward and back, and you'd be scraping the back end of the tongue in the mouth, in effect, scratching the itch at the back of the tongue. When you do that, you'll be feeling the space behind those upper rear teeth. You lift your tongue a little further and secure it in the space behind the rear upper molars. So that's the back 2 points. As to the front point behind the upper front teeth, the question sometimes arises, where exactly do you put the tip of your tongue? You do place it right behind the upper teeth, or do you slide it back along the roof of the mouth? And my answer is, you find that positioning according to the sensation I'm about to tell you. So you just start with some approximation, some position, arbitrary position of the tip, with the 2 upper places behind the upper rear molars connected to the back part of your tongue. You've got 3 points then. Once you've got the 3 points, and I'm acknowledging it may take a little bit of practice to get the control of your tongue to be able to do that. It doesn't take long. It takes minutes, but you may have to spend those minutes to locate how to secure your tongue there and get 3 points. Once you've got 3 points, you make the shape of your tongue something like a spoon. Or I use sometimes the metaphor radar dish, because when you cup your tongue that way, it causes a sensation in the roof of the mouth, the palate. That sensation happens when you cup the tongue enough, but not too much. And again, you do that experimentally by feel. So you get the 3 points, 2 in the back, 1 in the front, and slowly cup your tongue. And at a certain point, you're going to feel the sensation at the roof of your mouth turn on. If you go too far or you don't go far enough, it won't happen. If you move too quickly, you may miss the sweet spot when the roof of the mouth turns on. So let's rehearse for a moment doing that. Get your tongue into that position. You would start with the back of the tongue, lift it up and secure it behind your upper rear molars. And then by curling your tongue, touch the tip to the roof of the mouth, someplace behind the upper front teeth. Get 3 points, and then adjust so the pressure on all 3 is the same, and then decrease the pressure so it's just a light contact between them. And when you found that, then by bringing the center of your tongue kind of down, depressing it toward the floor of the mouth, create that spoon shape. You might experiment lifting and lowering the tongue into and out of the cup in order to discover how you can adjust the amount of positioning until you locate the place that causes the roof of the mouth to become sensitized in a particular central location above the cup of the tongue. Once you've found that position, you may notice that the interior of your nasal cavity dilates, opens up a little bit. And continue to cup and uncup your tongue, lift and lower slightly. and begin to sense in your nasal cavity for that dilation that occurs in a certain position of your tongue. When you find it, you'll notice that the roof of your mouth is turned on at the same time as your nasal cavity is dilated somewhat. So you connect the roof of the mouth sensation to the hollow sensation in the nasal cavity. And feel that sensation and breathe across it. You exhale, you'll feel it warm slightly. And as you inhale, you'll feel that place cool slightly. The change of temperature helps you to locate it. So the palate and the space in the nasal passage are connected. You're cooling and warming. And gaze into it, into the sensation. So you're not particularly visualizing, you're actually just intending to feel it and as if you were looking at it inside. And that's the basic tongue mudra. And you might sit there for 2 minutes or so doing nothing but feeling and gazing into it. Your mind may wander, that's all right. Just keep relocating it and you'll start to notice certain changes occur. So that's what I'm going to give you for the tongue mudra for now. When you've got that, then I can give you more. If you don't get that, I can't give you any more because you need that. That's your basic starting point, your basic tongue mudra. Okay. So anything to ask or tell?
Is it a similar sensation that you get when you're just about to fall asleep? That I get anyway. It feels familiar to me.
Well, yeah, because it's like yawning in a certain way. The yawning involves a curl of the tongue. If you ever seen a dog yawn, the tongue really curls like a spoon. So yeah, that would tie into the sense of drowsiness and yawning. And you would then freely use the tongue mudra when doing gold key release when you know the gold key release well enough that you're not laboring to remember the steps. When it comes fairly easily to you, then you have enough attention free to add the tongue mudra to it. You can do the tongue mudra by itself without the gold key release, as you can do gold key release without the tongue mudra, and each has its potency. Combined, you get a new potency emerging that is not obvious when doing either by itself. So before we conclude, anything more to ask or tell? Okay, so let's call this a wrap. Next week, we're going to do more gold key release. Again, an item of my suggestion and a hot topic, an item of yours. The rule of thumb is if it's something in your life that's bothering you or something that's a challenge, or even something that you're working on to perfect, an ability, a skill, that's a good topic for gold key release. And I'll be reminding you of tongue mudra. We'll still be doing just the basic because it'll take a little time before you get facility optimized. And we'll do the next part of the crystal crown procedure, which I call the subjective lens, LENS. When you assemble the four elements, the four operations, it turns something on. You're actually building the crystal crown. And that will be next week's edition. Oh, well, let's call it a day and the same time next week.